Welcome to the Why We Build podcast. Join Greg Woleck to explore the world of remodeling, whether you're on the production team, design team, or managing the whole show. You can expect insights, tips, and stories that inspire and educate. So, let's dive into the Why We Build podcast.
Welcome to the Why We Build podcast. I'm Greg Woleck, your host. As always, if you have any guest suggestions or topics, please reach out, Greg at remodelersadvantage.com. You know, there's a moment almost every remodeler hits. The phone is ringing, the inbox is full, there are leads coming in, and yet margins are tight, projects feel heavy, the wrong clients keep showing up. We tell ourselves if we just had more leads, this would get better. But what if the problem isn't lead generation? What if the real issue is client acquisition? There is a difference. One fills your calendar and the other fills your pipeline with the right people. The ones who respect your process, value your expertise, and are willing to pay for it. Today's guest understands that difference deeply. Now, Rick Storlie started as a framing carpenter in 1988. He picked up garbage on job sites. He's run large custom home operations as a general manager. He's coached sales teams. And today he leads a builder lead converter, helping remodelers attract, capture, and convert high quality opportunities. We're going to talk about why chasing more leads can actually hurt your business, what it means to become the builder of choice in your market, how marketing, lead generation, and sales must work as one cohesive system, and how to consistently convert at 33% and more gross margins. If you're tired of feast or famine roller coaster, if you're tired of bidding on work you don't want, if you're ready to choose your clients instead of being chosen, this episode is for you. Rick Storlie is the founder of Builder Lead Converter and a lifelong student of the building industry. Starting as a framing carpenter in 1988, Rick has worked in nearly every role imaginable, from job site labor to general manager of a large custom home building company. Rick Storlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Greg. That was quite a impressive introduction. I hope I can live up to the hype.
Without a doubt, Rick, it's always great to talk to you. Let's just get right into it. Now, you've been in the industry for a long time, like myself. You've seen it evolve. How have homeowner behaviors changed over the decades? Not to make either one of us sound old, by the way.
Yeah, not to make it sound old, but yeah, as you heard in my bio, I got my start in '88. So here we are, 35, pushing 40 years into the industry. I started, Greg, and it was before the internet, before email. Working for a home builder, and of course, we would build a model home. We would do events, parade of homes type traffic, bring opportunities in the door, and then you had a bird's eye view to consumer behavior. So I could literally sit back like a fly on the wall, watch people go through my model home, look at their behaviors. And during that time, I really started to develop this introspective into how do buyers really go about choosing a home builder or a remodeler? And I say home builder remodeler because when you're selling design build, this pretty much all starts with the same things. The challenge I was presented with was, okay, you have an event. So a lot of remodelers do home shows. You got hundreds of people, going by your booth each day. And of course, every remodeler is trying to ask the same question. Besides giving away a free pen, how do I get people to sort of stop and have a conversation with me? And that was what I was doing too. I had hundreds of people a weekend going through my model home. I'm like, how do I engage these people? So one of the things I learned real quick was that there was specific questions people had that they weren't willing to come out and ask me, but I wanted to be a source of information. And so we started with design. And in my case, it was, answering that question, what can I build? In other words, what could my transformed home look like? What is this addition going to look like? What is this custom home going to look like? And so we focused on that. And then, of course, the next question was always, how much? right? How much? And finally, it was the third question was, who can build it for me? So I learned real quickly is that when homeowners look for information, and this hasn't changed today, or look for picking a builder, let's say a remodeler, is they don't look for a remodeler right away. They look for what can I build? How much will it cost? And then when I find somebody who I think is a local option, then I will start making my contacts there. So there's a whole research phase. And this is well documented, and every remodeler knows that women are the primary driver behind this. Usually mama doesn't like something in her nest. And she's kind of, elbowing Papa and say, hey, we need to do something here. And she goes out and does all the research. And then she says, okay, here's all the research. And then she elbows her husband and says, okay, call Greg, the remodeler, right? And get a price or, something like that. So that's how it started. And consumer behavior really hasn't changed. Everyone still looks for what they can build, how much it's going to cost, and then ultimately who can do it for me. And it's just how they gather that information has changed. So no longer are they walking into showrooms or going to home shows, more or less. They're doing everything obviously online. And of course, there's different ways of doing that online right now. So the latest and the greatest is AI search summaries, right? And I know every remodeler is out there going like, they're talking to their marketing people saying, how do I show up in AI search summaries? And that is a big part of it. It's almost right now about 50% of active remodeling leads are using AI search today. This is early 2026, and it's just going to grow from there. But they haven't given up on traditional search. They're still getting referrals. They're still looking at social media. They're still checking out reviews on your house profile and Google Business Profile. But ultimately, though, they're still trying to answer that question. What can I build? How much does it cost? And do you come to my neighborhood, my zip code? And are you a builder that I should consider partnering with? So it's still a macro to micro, and the larger the project, the longer the sales cycle. So as a builder, as a remodeler, what we always recommend is that, focus on providing the information that lead is after, become a relevant source of local information, and then give them an offer they can't refuse, which is meet them where they're at. Maybe they want to talk. Maybe it's going to be 2 years before they want to talk, but just offer information to start that relationship.
I learned this week that AI search that's going on now, 76%, they're no click searches now. They're just going to the AI. They're not actually even getting to the website. That just blew me away when I heard that. And I'm probably guilty of it myself when I'm, looking for stuff online. But tell me the difference though. What's the distinction between lead generation and client acquisition?
That's a big disconnect, because when I talk with a lot of remodelers, and their first question is, well, can you help me with lead generation? And the answer, of course, is yes. And anyone can. Really, you can go out there, and there are marketing agencies out there will say, sure, I'll go on Facebook or Google local service ads, and they'll generate leads for you. And they're all crap. None of them convert. Third party lead sources, Thumbtack. I mean, Angie. How many? You've tried that. And there is a legitimate place for those leads, but when you get into truly design, build, higher end projects, I'm going to say $100,000 and up for a project, those types of clientels are not going to Thumbtack to find their builder. It's a somewhat complex soup of sources they're going to use for information. But the bottom line is this, Greg, is that a builder today, you have to develop your leads. You can't buy them. You have to develop them. And so when it comes down to client acquisition, it's one thing to just generate a lead, and then you follow up, and I call it the chase. Right, you chase that lead and run down the streets after them, and you waste your time or your staff's time. You finally get a hold of them. You find out they're completely unqualified, and you're thinking like, well, what am I doing? So when it comes to client acquisition, really what we want to base that model on is how every remodeler got started, and that's by simply referral and repeat business, because that lead source is still the highest converting lead source out of anything you will ever do for client acquisition. But what a lot of remodelers, and especially marketing companies, what they fail to realize is, why is that source so high converting? And it's simply because value and trust was already established with your past client, or say with your business referral partner, and they took that trust that they have established with you, and they simply transferred it over to the referral. So that person calls you up and said, "Hey, you built a great project for so and so. Can you help me?" Now they still have the same questions, which is how much project can I get for how little money? But they already trust you. Now, when you're building a client acquisition system and you're going to go to other sources of leads, you don't have that trust and value built in. So much like when you hire an employee and you have to work very diligently in training that employee on how you want things done for your operation, you also have to develop clients over time. And so a lot of different ways to do that, but you can't just build a website or run an ad and say, "Hey, if you want to remodel your kitchen, here's my phone number," or go to my website, or think that a job site sign is going to do the conversion. Because if they don't see value in you and they don't trust you, the question is this, Greg: what's your price per square foot? Oh, well, Chuck in a truck with his taillight guarantee is cheaper than you. So buy, right? They just either look at you, you're commodified. And at that point, you're not going to lose. And I tell remodelers this too. I said, look, your worst leads are the ones that are ready, willing, and able. Got my plans, got my specs. How much? Right? Because and every remodeler has done this. You get excited, right? Oh, I got somebody who's ready to go. You go through, and if you do a free estimate, you've been caught in this. Spend all this time providing that estimate, get back to that lead, and they say, Greg, thanks so much for that 14 hours that you spent over the weekend putting this together so I could get my price on Monday. I really appreciate it. If I have any questions, I'll get back to you. And what do? They run back to the guy they're already working with. They sign with him and say, yeah, your price looks legitimate. And off you go. And you just lost a weekend with your family because you were chasing the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit is not the ready, will, and able lead. It is the person who is just beginning their research, and they're able to engage you early on. And now you have weeks, if not months, if not years, to develop value and trust for your operation. And when they are ready to talk, you're top of mind, and they're going to call you first because they think you're the local expert.
I love the idea of local expert, because I think if there's an issue, I mean, there's a lot of issues in the industry, but one is it's so segmented, right? Like I remember, I always say when I had a real job, when I was still, working in the field and that sort of thing, I could go to the lumber yard a couple times a week and never see the same builder twice. There's just so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you become that local expert? How do you become that, the trust, how you develop that trust in a market that may not be working with you all the time?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And we get this a lot too, where you've got a guy remodeler who's maybe 3-4 years in the business, and he sort of started as that handyman, and now he's trying to work his way up the ladder and get into more design build, but he hasn't got a whole like design build portfolio. And the term that I learned a long time ago from one of my mentors is believability. You have to create believability with your lead. In other words, it's like this. Let's just say you're a handyman and your average job size, let's say, is $5,000, but you want to work your way into kitchens and bathrooms. Okay, so now you want to get into that, say, $30,000 to $150,000 price point and start doing some design build. In order for the lead to believe you can do that, you have to show them. Okay, so historically, that's been project photos. It's also they're going to look for reviews of past clients that you've already done that sort of work for. Because if you did it for someone else, they believe that you can do it for them. So case in point, I always tell remodelers and home builders the same thing. It's like you have to be careful of what you put on your website. So in other words, if let's say your remodeling projects start at a $50,000 bathroom and they go up from there, and every remodeler wants to do the $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, high-end design builds so they can plant themselves and be there for a while and make their margins. They don't want to have to jump around to different project sites. But if you're willing to do a $50,000 bathroom and you're only showing $500,000 renovations on your website, your lead is going to believe that you only do $500,000 renovations, and they're going to check you off the list. They're going to cross you out because your leads shop by process of elimination. So they're not trying to add you to their short list. They're trying to cross you off because they're going to look at 30 different websites and different remodelers. They might talk to 1 to 3. Same conversely, if you've only done handyman projects and that's all you show on your website, and they want to do a $50,000 bathroom, they're going to say, well, you don't know how to do a $50,000 bathroom because I don't see it. So therefore I don't believe it. So next they're going to move on. So you have to create believability. And believability can be done. You can do things where you can use stock imagery, in other words, you fake it until you make it. Absolutely. We do a lot with videos right now where we create like virtual showrooms, where you can show, again, use a static image where it can make it look like a walkthrough. So yes, you could take a stock image of a kitchen that would fit the type of project you're looking for. You could do a virtual walkthrough of that, create a video of it, put in some of your reviews from your handyman, type stuff, and you could create a believable video that would show that lead like, hey, this is a builder that is capable of doing this type of work. So believability is key. Once you have believability, then they're going to move on to, can I trust you? Because what we find, Greg, is that when we look at how buyers behave when they get on a remodeler's website, next to the homepage where everyone starts, that's the front door, the second most visited page is the About Us section. Trust. It's like if you're going to be invited into my home, my most sacred space, and remember, this is mama, right, who's doing most of this research. She's got to trust you. So there's got to be a really good human connection. They got to see your staff. They got to see your team. They got to look at your core values. They want to see your processes. If you have a guarantee, you need to put that on there. Any awards that you've won, reviews from past clients. They're going to spend a lot of time doing that because they want to say, are you a trustable company that I could invite into my home, my most sacred space? And then the third part is going to be value. In other words, value. And value just is simply an equation. It's price performance divided by quality perception. So you have to create that perception of believability and enough trust so they're willing to get on the phone with you. And once they're willing to get on the phone with you, a lot of that trust and value, it's established online, but it's confirmed, I'd say, on site. So it starts with that phone call, and then when they meet you face to face, they're like, yeah, Greg. So what's interesting, Greg, is what happens is they start off with saying, how much project can I get for how little money? Everyone wants the most for the least. It's human nature, right? So don't get upset with your leads. That's just how we are, right? How many of you want to go and pay more than you have to for a high-end product or service like a remodeling? But what happens is once trust and value is established, the question shifts from, Greg, what's the next step? I want to know how much my project's going to cost, and I want to know what it's going to look like, and I trust you enough to follow your process, and that's that you got them now. Now it's your deal to lose.
So you sort of touched on it, and one of my favorite phrases is, revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. And as you're a remodeler and you're chasing these leads, and I think that's the difference between the client acquisition system. You're trying to really narrow down your ideal client. Why is it that so many remodelers are reluctant to be selective? Like I see it all the time. They just take a job. Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of it is a discipline when it comes to client acquisition. And I literally just had this conversation with one of our clients, and he hit 3 million this year, best year ever, or in 2025, and he wants to get to 6, but he really hasn't jumped fully on board with marketing yet. And of course, the excuse is, oh, Rick, I'm so busy, and I don't really take the time to do it. And so I asked him a question. I said, Jason, how are your numbers? How are your margins? Well, he's hitting 33% gross, net in double digits. I'm like, okay, that's great. You're doing that. I said, what are you investing right now into your operations to be able to hit those numbers? And he said, well, one of the things we do is every Wednesday we do a team meeting. We start at 10, we end at 11:30. We have a very strict calendar, and we got everyone, or I should say very strict agenda. We got everyone on the team there. I said, have you ever added up what that hourly cost is for that team meeting? And for those of you that do team meetings, I'm sure you've had that thought has crossed your mind. I know it has mine. And he's like, no, I thought about it, but I haven't added it up. I said, well, let's just say it's $1,000 an hour. Let's say you do 50 meetings per year. Okay, so you're investing $50,000 into your operations, and you are diligently every single Wednesday, week in and week out, focusing on production and operations to hit your numbers. I said, now what if you took that same discipline and investment and you put it into client acquisition on the front end? Oh, light bulb starts to come on. And I said, that's what it comes down to, is that there's too much. The reason there's so much ebb and flow in this industry, and builders, everyone says the same thing. I want to even flow, Rick. I want to even flow. I don't want the peaks and I don't want the valleys. I want to just even flow everything. I'm like, okay, well, are you even flowing your client acquisition? Are you doing things day in and day out, week in and week out to generate that next opportunity. Because the only way you're going to get to even flow and hit your numbers is you have to have more opportunities than you can produce. So what I mean by that is that don't think of having your client acquisition on the front end dictate your production levels. Do it in reverse. Let your production levels dictate client acquisition. Because if you know you're only going to start or close 2 jobs a month, okay, I could do 24 a year. Well, now generate 30 opportunities, right? So now when somebody falls out of bed, you're not scrambling to fill that slot. You've got someone behind it. Now, if you have a client that's giving you red flags or they're, pushing back on price, you can say, hey, no problem. Chuck, Chuck in the truck down the street. He's got an opening. On Wednesday he'll be over at your house. But we don't do that, and that's where I think you got to move from that bidding mindset, especially when you're early on. You're thinking, oh, I got to give this free estimate. To no, I want to sell a collaborative design build relationship, and the focus, of course, is moving from being a remodeler to a remodeling advisor, right? So the leads come to you for advice. And the higher the project level, these people already have advisors they're normally paying. They'll have attorneys, they have, doctors, they have accountants, they have financial planners. They're used to paying for that. So if you can develop that trust and value in the advisory stage, which of course is a pre-construction design process, that's why you have a 90% conversion rate going from design into construction. The challenge, of course, is getting the design agreement. And everything you do before you ask for the design agreement will dictate your conversions from having that lead say, yes, here's my check. When can we get started?
So you mentioned even flow. So now Pearl Jam is just in my head right now. I can't get that song out, but I appreciate it. So, all right. So systems thinking, right? And you talk a lot about marketing, lead generation, and sales as this cohesive system. Mm-hmm. Why is that so important?
So what it comes down to is that if let's just say you are a big enough operation where you have a salesperson and you have a separate marketing entity, and then maybe you've got someone else running ads. Now, marketing is simply just it's value creation. Okay, so don't think of marketing any more than that. Somebody has to look at you, and this is the analogy I use, which I think is a good example here. It's a good visual, Greg. When you have a set of plans, specifications, and selections, you're sitting in front of your lead. You're at the end of the table, and next to that plans, specs, and selections is a price. Okay, now the lead's on the opposite end of the table. The exact amount that is on your price sheet is stacked in cash in front of them. And what you are asking them to do is to look at your plans and specs and price, and you're asking them to look at that and have that be the same value or more than the money that's stacked in front of them. When that happens, value is established. They're going to push the money over to you because they feel like they're getting a fair shake. You're going to push and plan specs to them. They sign the contract. You're off and running. As soon as they look at that money and they think like their money is more valuable than those plans and specs, they're gone. They're going to walk. Value was not established. So that's really what marketing does, is that when somebody finally gets to that point where they're looking at that price, they have to feel that the value they're getting in exchange is equal to or greater than the money that they're giving up. And so everything that you do prior to getting to that point is to help build the value of your operations. People do not buy logically. They buy emotionally and they justify logically. So if the emotional attachment comes because they see value, they're going to logically justify spending more money with you than one of your competitors because they feel like they're getting their money's worth, even though you're charging more. Okay, so that's marketing. Now, lead generation, of course, is just giving me an opportunity, giving me as many high quality local opportunities as possible. And then when it comes to sales, it's where the lead source where I have derived the opportunity has been through my marketing campaign. I have established value and trust online. And then when I sit down and meet with them, I've solidified that trust. They look at me as the most competent solution to their lifestyle problem, because that's ultimately what you're selling as a remodeler. You're selling a hoped for lifestyle, and you are the solution to have them realize that. You're not a remodeler. It's not sticks and bricks. Greg, it's simply, I want to do something with my home I can't do right now. That's a problem. Who can help me fix it? So if they feel you are the best guy to fix it by giving them that hope for realization of that lifestyle they're after, they're going to hire you. So if you are disconnected with your marketing and your lead generation and your sales, you're going to have a very low conversion rate. If everything is cohesive and working together, your conversion rate is going to be that much higher. So I don't need to generate 100 leads a month. I can generate 15 to 30 high quality leads per month, and I can convert a very high percentage of those into profitable jobs in the service area I want and the types of jobs that I want to work on.
I don't know, marketing's not my forte, but I've learned a little bit. And there's, the marketing qualified leads and there's sale qualified leads. I feel like marketing qualified leads are like almost like the participation trophy. Like we got enough people through the door with the marketing lead, but it's really the sales qualified leads that matter. Now, a lot of the remodelers that I work with, a lot of the builders I work with, they want to give up on their marketing. They're not seeing that return fast enough. How do you, like with your clients, how do you preach like patience? Because I do think this is just the world we live in. I think that we feel like the sales cycle time should be a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that it really should be. And so how do you get your clients to be more patient with their marketing efforts?
I think number one is setting expectations as to if you're really going to make a transformation in your client acquisition, what is the timetable that you should focus on? And I think it's, you probably do the same thing in Remodelers Advantage. I know a lot of coaches do this. It's like, look, to make impactful changes in your business, it's a year. It's really a year to do that. Now, we're also in a seasonal business, so you're not going to get a whole lot of leads in December. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you decide, hey, November, I'm going to kick this thing off and we're going to go guns a-blazing, it's like temper your expectations. So it's really a full year, I think, too, as you look at that. Now, the other thing, Greg, is you got to get 3 pipelines going. So don't just rely on you're running paid ads or you're doing GEO optimization, that sort of thing, but also look at what's your B2B outreach. And what are you doing to get more repeat referral business from your past clients? B2B outreach, we focus a lot on with remodelers, realtors, interior designers, and architects. And you should be talking to probably 2 to 5 of those types of people every single week.
Mm-hmm.
What remodelers do that? Hardly anybody, hardly anybody. But the heavy lifting you do right now to develop that trusted partner relationship with, say, a local architect or an interior designer or a realtor that it has buyers that want to buy homes that need a big refresh, and we have clients right now where 50% of their business is people moving into an area, they're buying a home they're compromising on, and they're going to have a large renovation done, a whole house renovation done before they ever move in. Just because there's limited inventory in certain areas. So you have to look at what those opportunities are there. Then you have your digital client acquisition. Then you have what I call your aging and cold lead reactivation. Because what we find for every 10 leads you generate, typically you'll convert somewhere between 2 to 4 to a phone call within, like, say, the first 2 weeks. Okay, so that means 60 to 80% of those leads, or 6 to 8, did not convert. So what are you doing to re-engage, reactivate those leads? And what that simply means, Greg, it's not like they're bad leads, because a lot of remodelers think like, oh, they're junk. They never return my phone call. I'm next, and they move on and they just forget about that. It's not like they're a bad lead. They just weren't ready to talk. So it's why one of the first adjustments you make is on your website is you give a lot of different offers to meet the lead where they're at. So yeah, maybe they'll call you. Maybe they'll fill out that form and you can get back with them and that you'll get into a phone conversation. But a lot of times it's like, I just want some design ideas. I just want to get some pricing information. I just want to know how the design build process works. I've never remodeled before. So if you're a resource there, now you're capturing those leads. Now you can focus on long-term database management and you can continue to develop and nurture and add value and trust over time. And so now it's 6 months down the road or 12 months down the road. And that lead you captured a year ago, you're talking to. And guess what happened over that 12-month period? They started to trust you and they started to see value because you were providing information that they needed. And when they're ready to choose a remodeler, who do they look for in their local market? They didn't look for Chuck. They looked for the expert, and
Yes.
you educated them. You were their advisor. So now you're the expert. So now it's your deal to lose, and they'll come to you. And of course, during that time, they've also qualified it and they know that you are going to produce the type of project they're looking for. And that's why your conversion rates can go that much higher because you're going to, those leads that were never qualified in the first place, instead of trusting you, they're going to get it. They're going to find out like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do this type of project. I'll go and look for somebody else versus the person who wants that really enhanced design build. Hey, they're going to stick with you because you're like, yeah, you're speaking my language. You're helping me answer those questions I have and giving me the information, so I feel comfortable enough to have a conversation.
So light bulb for me, I've always heard how important blogs are on your website. And it's the trust, right? That's where that's coming from. And on
Content.
top of that, again, I'm learning, but all that AI is pulling that from your website now. So that's also going to help you to become, ranking or, whatever those terms are.
Mhm.
I never got why the blog was so important, but thanks for opening my eyes to that, Rick. That was
Yeah,
pretty
the
good.
blog, it used to be just another door to come into your virtual showroom. And now blogs, a lot of the content that goes in the blogs and actually how it's formatted is formatted for AI search summaries, for those zero-click summaries you talked about. And so FAQs are huge. The other thing that's changing the industry, Greg, and it's just beginning, it's going to be radically different a year from now, is remodelers are going to have to be a lot more transparent on their pricing
Hmm.
because AI search summaries, that's what they're looking for. So if you want to show up in an AI search summary, you got to hit all those FAQs and they need to be as specific as possible. So location wise, service wise, details is possible. So that's really important in blogs. But also you got to give price ranges and budgets and you got to list out like, hey, for a kitchen, you're going to run between this and this from a price per square foot and factor in all those things. That's what'll show up in that AI search summary, and that's what will bring that lead to you.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more companies are putting calculators on their websites, relevant to their pricing.
Yep.
But it's certainly, yeah, the transparency. There's not that I've ever wanted to hide anything. I've always been very transparent in terms of when I was building and stuff. But yeah, I can totally see how the technology
Well,
is going
and
to
it's a
influence that.
challenge. And you get a design build, it's like, well, what's your price per square foot for this? Well, of course, the answer is it depends,
It
right?
depends.
It depends, right?
Right.
What's your finish level? What's your square footage? What am I getting into? Am I removing walls or what am I dealing with? So there's really no way you can answer it, but you can give budget ranges, and that's really all you have to do. Yeah, we have a pricing tool as well. It's now got an AI assist to it. And we actually have a direct link into JobTread, so you can build a job cost group. You can link up with like someone like Render. The league can do their scan on their house. You can take that plan and all its measurements, push it into JobTread. You can get a real time budget for that lead. And you've never left your house and you've never even talked to the lead. But now you provided that relevant source of information. The lead's going to self qualify. And if they like your rest of your marketing, they're going to move forward and have a call with you. And now it's a very warm call
Hmm.
because you know their project, they know a budget, and all they're doing is they're solidifying that value and trust, and you're going to move them into your sales process and probably sell them.
All right, just sort of rapid fire questions here. One marketing tactic that remodelers overvalue.
Oh, paid ads.
Okay.
Paid ads are the worst return on investment you're going to get as a design build remodeler.
How about undervalue?
Undervalue, I would say the structure of your website. Most remodelers build what I would call a builder centric website and not a lead centric website. We used to call it, we go through the parade of homes, and some builder would build a spec home, and they would so over build it, and it was so specific to what they liked.
Yes.
We would walk out of there and we'd chuckle and we'd say, well, I know who's going to buy that house. It's going to be the builder. He's going to be moving in 6 months because he can't sell it. And so a lot of builders, they build a digital monument to themselves, a lot of remodelers. And so they build this beautiful website and they like it, but their leads get nothing out of it. And so, yeah, so if you're going to run paid ads, you're going to do GEO. If you have a website that is not lead centric and it doesn't have the right content, the right offers on it, you're wasting your money. Excuse me.
Someone explained to me like the website should be your funnel. I mean, that's a really great way to think about your website is just drawing people in, and it's the call to action, or the lead magnet, whatever you might want to call it. But
It's a tool.
and I never thought of that either. I always thought it was a gallery, or like you said, a
Like a
digital
brochure,
monument.
yeah. They used to be like just a glorified brochure, and that's what the first websites were. That you took like a physical pamphlet and you just made it digital. Now it's an interactive tool that leads can use to again get information and then start a relationship.
Biggest myth about more leads.
Uh, Conversions, because you always want to begin with the end in mind, which is that profitable sale. So you have to look at the sources and also the time in your pipeline. In other words, how much time have you had to nurture that lead? That's why, I mean, probably the ultimate lead source is a repeat customer.
Yes.
Agreed, right? I mean, that's because it's like, hey, Greg, we're gonna have you back, next month. We want you to do the kitchen. What we know, they trust you. They worked with you before. They're like, hey, you're my guy. You're a remodeler. So I would say the the ability to get to do more of getting that type of clientele that actually just really see the value of what you do, is the ultimate for the remodeler.
Best book you'd recommend for a builder remodeler who wants better margins?
Best book.
Yes.
What would be? Well, I am a huge proponent of EOS.
Mhm.
So if you haven't read Traction, I think it will change your business outlook. So I guess I would say Traction.
I love that book as well. The whole series, there's
It's
so many
great.
good books in that series of books as well. All right, future of remodeling. What excites you about the future of remodeling?
I think a couple of things. Okay, so one is the AI search. And also number two is going to be video marketing. Because historically, what has happened is that a large remodeler could go in and more or less buy a marketplace. So think of if you were on paid ads, you've got to put a budget together, and as soon as that budget's gone, your ad stops. So the
Mhm.
theory was, if I'm a remodeler, if I have the biggest budget, I just buy the marketplace and I spend all my money in SEO and that sort of thing. With video marketing, now the small volume remodeler, the one that doesn't have a showroom, if they are very strategic and they know what they're doing, you can create virtual showrooms all over your market, and you can produce information in a format that your leads want to consume. And we used to say, laugh at Twitter because, oh, everyone's got a Twitter attention span, 140 characters or less. Okay, so it's not even 140 characters less right now. It's an 11 to 60-second video. It's a short
Yeah.
form video, right? So if you can take and pump out content specific to the type of services you offer, specific to the locations you offer it in short form video, and you have a good blueprint in that video that will keep someone's attention for 11 to 60 seconds, you can outperform any written ad out there, or any sort of GEO. And a lot of times you can get it on free platforms too. So it's on your Google business profile. You can show up in map searches there. You can, again, embed it in your blogs. You can put it on your social channels and that sort of thing. People love to use short form video to get information. In fact, about 75% of the leads today prefer it. And so that is a game changer for remodelers that know how to use it.
So usually I leave this next question open ended, but I'm going to be sort of specific here because I like this idea of being the local builder of choice. If someone wants to do that in the next 30 days, what's something they could really focus in on to be that local builder of choice?
Putting together FAQs. I mean, start with 5 of your frequently asked questions of your leads, then add 5 more. Try to get it up to 10, 15, 20, 30, and then build content around those FAQs. So on your website, put it on your social media channels, get it on your Google business profile. You can post to your Google business profile. A lot of remodelers don't even know that. And get that content out there. Develop those B2B relationships. You got to be doing realtor outreach. You got to be networking with interior designers. You got to be, if you want to go after those really big, complex projects, you got to be getting some architects, some local architects in your back pocket where you have that relationship. And I've heard everything about architects too, and of course realtors. They architects want to take my leads, but they don't give me anything else. It's like, that's fine. There's more than one architect in your area though. So find the one, two, or three that are willing to send some people your way, that are willing to put you on their recommendations for their particular clients. Same thing with interior designers. And then, for realtors, realtor outreach, it's a grind because there's a lot of realtors, and I heard a stat the other day that there's more licensed realtors in the country than there are home listings. So I mean, look at that. So realtors, I always call it's a 90-10 business. There's 10% of the realtors that do about 90% of the business, and 90% do 10%. So find those realtors that are active in your service area, that are selling in the neighborhoods that you want to be remodeling in, and develop that network relationship, because they need you as much as you need them. So you got to be doing that. That's going to get you the fastest impact. And also stay in contact with your best clients. Call them up, send them birthday cards, send them anniversary notes, send them quarterly maintenance tips on maintaining their home. Keep your foot in the door. And again, it's free. It just takes discipline, and it takes some strategy on the front end for you. But it's a heck of a lot easier, I know, to go out and spend $3,000 a month on ads than it is to probably make 3 calls a week to your past clients. But I can guarantee you're going to get more business out of those 3 calls a week that you'll ever get out of that $3,000 in ads that you spend each month.
Rick, really good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find you? How do we learn more about your company?
builderleadconverter.com. builderleadconverter.com. We've got a lot of information on there, and if you'd like to talk with me, you can schedule a strategy call, and we'll dig in more to what you got going on and see if we can't help you out.
It is a really great website. I dig through it from time to time, and your email lists. I'm always getting Rick Storlie in my email list, so good stuff. Thanks again, Rick. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Rick, I appreciate this conversation. There's something powerful about hearing someone who's been in the trenches literally and talk about growth from a place of experience, not theory. If you're listening today and you're overwhelmed by leads but underwhelmed by margins, if you're stuck chasing work instead of choosing work, this is your reminder. It's not about more leads. It's about better clients. It's about alignment. It's about building a system where marketing, sales, and delivery work together. To learn more about Rick's company, please go to builderleadconverter.com. If this episode challenged your thinking, share it with your sales leader, share it with your owner, share it with your marketing team, because the companies that win in this next decade won't just build well, they'll acquire clients well. Thank you for listening to the Why We Build podcast.
That's it for this episode of the Why We Build podcast. We hope you found something valuable to take back to your team. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Please send in your ideas for future episodes. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.